Hey everyone, welcome to day 2 of Scratch. For today, if we look at Canvas, so it says S for Swanigan, day 2, Falling Apples. Your job today is to create a Falling Apples game, which has a new Scratch file, a sprite at the bottom to catch the apple, a apple sprite at the top of the screen. Your bottom sprite has to go left to right, the apple has to fall from the sky by itself, and you need a game over screen if the sprite misses the apple. So, in Scratch, we're going to go to make sure that you're logged in first, and then we're going to go to Create. Once in here, we need to find two sprites that will work for our purposes. So I'm going to go to Choose Sprite. Abby looks like she could catch an apple, and I need an apple. I do not need a cat, so I'm going to click on Sprite 1 and delete him. I'm going to move Abby to the bottom of my page, move the apple to the top. Now looking at this screen, that apple is way too big, and so is Abby, for this game to work. So over here, we can name the sprites. This is the location on the stage that the sprite is right now. There's the size. We're going to take the apple, move it down to about 25%. I'm going to click on Abby, and I'm going to move her down to about 80%. That looks more manageable to me. I'm going to readjust Abby so she's at the bottom center, readjust my apple so it's at the top of the screen. Now I'll go back to the directions, and it says, I'm on step 4, that I need to move the sprite left to right. So that would be Abby. So I'm going to click on her. Remember, anytime we want something to happen when we start the game, we have to choose when green flag is clicked. Now, we want Abby to change her spot on the bottom of the screen every time we touch the left and right arrow buttons. When we want something to always happen, that means we want it to happen forever. Under the control, there is a forever link. So forever, if we touch the left arrow button, we want Abby to go left. So we need an if-then block. Now, if we're touching something, that means we want our computer to sense it. So we're going to go into Sensing and say if touching. Now, the default says mouse pointer, but because that's not the one we want. We want the key pressed. Sorry about that. So if the left arrow is pressed, then we want Abby to move left, which is motion. Now here you actually have two choices. We can choose to move 10 steps. That's going to move her 10 steps whatever direction she's facing. So right now she's facing right, she would move 10 steps right. If we wanted her to go left, we'd do a -10. But once you get into a little more complicated Scratch games, moving 10 steps doesn't really work because your sprites are going to be changing directions. You actually want to change your X and Y coordinates. If you think about math, your X goes left to right and your Y goes up and down. So on here we have a change X by. If we're going to change our X right is positive and left is negative. So we're going to do change X by -10. Now let's hit our play button, or our green flag, and look, she moves to the left, but she's kind of stuck there. So I'm going to hit my stop button, and Abby's still stuck on the side of the page. That's going to be a problem. So we're going to drag her back over, and we always want her to start in the middle of the page. So we're going to go back into motion, which we're already there. There's a go to XY down here, and those numbers are pre-filled to match where your sprite's at on your stage. So we're going to throw that under when green flag is clicked. So that way, if we hit the green flag, move her all the way to the side, hit the green flag again, Abby goes back to the middle. Since our left arrow works And I'm not a big fan of finding all this code again. You can actually right-click and say duplicate. And it duplicated just those blocks we needed. Okay? So we already have forever. If left arrow is pressed, then go -10. We can take this, put it in that same forever, change our drop to a right arrow, change it to a +10. We added code, so we're going to run it again, see if it works. She moves left, she moves right. Good job. So now that Abby's good to go, and she goes back to center still, we can ignore Abby for a minute. We're going to move on to our apple, because it says on our next stop, make the apple fall from the sky. So I click on my apple, and now we need the same kind of code that we had for Abby, where we want on the green flag, we want that apple to fall from the sky. So when green flag is clicked, forever, remember, if X is left to right, Y is going to be up and down. So we're going to go to motion, and we're going to go, there's change X, so let's find change Y. Here it is. We're going to change Y. Now, positive is up and negative is down, so we need to change Y by -10. Let's see if that works. Oh, there goes our apple. We hit stop, and our apple doesn't return to the top again. So we need to do what we did with Abby. Drag our apple up to the top and say that when green flag is clicked, we're going to put that up here. We don't want to put that in the forever loop, because if we do that, it's never actually going to go anywhere. It's going to drop a little bit and then pop back up every time. You can try that if you want. So now, if we look back at our directions, it says that we need to set a game over screen if the sprite misses the apple. Right now we just have a white backdrop. So let's pick a backdrop. I like baseball 1. So that's going to be my starting backdrop. Since I always want my starting backdrop to be baseball 1, I go to looks, and I do switch backdrop to backdrop 1. And that's going to be when start is clicked as well. Now I need to know if she misses that apple, I need to know that the game is over by another background. So I'm going to do choose background. And if she misses her apple, which is her fly ball, she's going to get benched. Okay? So I don't need the bench right now, and if I hit the flag, it should go to my baseball field. Hit my green flag, it all worked, but it still didn't change to the bench yet because I didn't tell my Abby to interact with my apple. So now I need some code on my apple. So I need something that says, if Abby doesn't touch it, that means that if that apple hits the bottom edge of the screen, right? So when start is clicked, and then we're going to go to control, we're going to say if, and then we're going to go to sensing. So if that is touching, so let's pull that out and see what happens. Now if it's, we have a choice of the edge or Abby. Well, since this is my lose screen, I don't want to touch Abby. I want to say if it touches the bottom edge. Then I want it to look different, right? We pulled in that new backdrop, which is the bench, because she didn't catch the ball. So we're going to go, if the apple touches the edge, then it should change the backdrop. We did new code, so let's test it. Oh, that didn't work. So let's think about what we could have done wrong. If we hit the stop sign and go back, I think maybe our apple was already touching the edge when we started. So I'm going to change this, which is just as easy as separating them. And then I'm going to go back to motion and see where it started. Pull that one in. Play it. Still didn't work. Okay, that didn't work, so when in doubt, throw a forever loop around it. Let's try again. The apple hit the ground, the background changed so that she's now on the bench. We go back to our directions. That's our game over screen. We're done for the day. If you have other questions, let me know.